Hi, I'm Tracy Pierce. Thanks for joining me for this series of free mini animal communications. This series was really born out of what's happening in the world today with the coronavirus pandemic, with so many people being on lockdown. And, towards the beginning of the lockdown stuff, it just seems so strange to be driving. I was house sitting for a friend, actually, driving back and forth from my house to their house. And it just seemed like things had really changed. There were so few cars around. There was just kind of this eerie feeling, if you will, throughout, you know, the world. And I started to wonder what the animals were thinking about this whole situation. So that's how this series was really born. All right, so today we're going to talk with some wild Canadian geese. Let me pull up this. Actually, I'm going to show you a video first of them, and then I'll have a little still of them. So these Canadian geese, this video was sent by a friend who's down in the Palm Springs area. And apparently they've been getting a lot of rain down there. And these geese have been showing up, and they're little babies and stuff. So she sent me this video and thought this might be an interesting group of animals to talk with and see what they have to share with us. So we are going to do, I'm going to do live communication with these guys. So if you're joining me on Facebook, if you have questions for the geese that you would like to ask, you can type them into the comments. Or if you're joining me on Zoom, there should be a little button on the bottom there that says chat. So if you click on that, then you should be able to type in any questions you might have for our Canadian geese friends here. All right, so I'm gonna just change up to a stationary picture of these guys. And I'm just gonna start getting quiet and tuning into these Canadian geese and see what they would like to share with us today. So right now I feel them kind of coming forward as a group. I feel this real sense of calm, kind of complacency, tranquility. I don't mean complacency in a negative kind of way at all. There's this just this sense of like, yeah, we're going through what we're doing. This is our life. It feels very kind of laid back. So my geese friends, I wonder if there anything you feel like that's really important for us to know about you. What would you like us to know about you? So what I feel like, and I feel like it's the one that's kind of in front here, that's speaking to me more on the left-hand side. That was kind of the leader of the group, it seemed like. Um, he's showing, like there are these waves of up and down emotions that can be kind of smooth, and that's what this goose is asked or likes about his life. Are you the male or the female? Oh, I'm the female. Okay. So we're going to be. Yeah, she's showing, she sees a lot in human life where instead of having this kind of smooth up and down with our emotions, we aren't meant to always just be happy or always just be complacent. Our lives do have these ups and downs. But what she sees in humans is it's much more of like a jagged up and down, up and down, up and down. She says, you guys really like your roller coasters. And she's showing like with these high emotional, these extreme emotional highs and emotional lows, she's showing almost like this electricness, this electric jolt that comes into the humans' bellies. She's saying, and it's part of part of what we're addicted to in the really high, the emotional swings. Is there's an electricness that comes in the belly, especially that makes us feel alive. Huh, that's interesting. I wonder, so is that something you see pretty much only in the human population, or do other animals do that too? Yeah, she feels like it's more exclusively towards the humans, like there's something in their brains that's more, I hear the word developed, but that also encourages this more addictive kind of pattern. Could you say more about that or expand on that a little bit more? Yeah, she's saying that we're, as humans, we're more out of touch with these nature cycles, and that we consider ourselves separate from the nature cycles. And she feels like that we are meant to kind of come in and out of these more emotional things more smoothly than we really do. Like she's showing herself, like if there's a predator coming towards her, how yes, she does go on alert and like quack quack quack. I don't know if you've ever seen the geese like really vocally give it to somebody, but she's showing that, and she's like, yes, that is a big spike, but in the animal kingdom we know how to handle it a little bit better. It's almost like she's saying, because humans have so many more of these extreme highs and lows in their energy, there becomes this she's showing that's part of what we're addicted to, is like there's chemicals and hormones and things like that that get excreted when we're going through these highs and lows, and that's what we're addicted to. But she's saying it's not meant to be like that. Yeah, she's showing like in a very extreme situation where she's defending herself or having to stand up and quack quack quack, like there is that energetic rush of chemicals and hormones, but because it's not something that their brains are addicted to in the way humans are, that they're able to come down from those high pressure situations where maybe a predator is trying to get them. They're able to come down and release it from their bodies. Like she's showing how some animals, like after they have a trauma experience, like they'll kind of shake and like shake all that off of them. And she's showing like humans are much more interested in how they're presenting themselves to the world. She's saying like you're not going to see a lot of humans do that shaking thing after a trauma, because their society, they're aware of their culture, they're aware of their society, and usually that isn't acceptable. Wow, that's interesting. All right, so we've got a question from Kim here. She's wondering, how might we learn to be more fluid instead of sharp in our emotional, energetic responses? Well, she's saying there is a level of, we have to learn how to get past our addiction to the highs and the lows. Do you feel like you have any advice for how we might be able to get out of that addiction pattern? It's almost like a rewiring of our brain has to happen, is what she's showing. And I guess I can really relate personally to what she's saying. I definitely, in the past, I don't know, probably still am today, but can feel how I was really somewhat addicted to those highs and lows. And it's like we have to learn to regulate our bodies differently, is what she's saying. Yeah, so I can see like how addictive those highs and lows might be. Do you feel like, I mean, this is kind of what Kim is saying, do you feel like there's a way we could be more fluid with it? And she's seeing it's like a gradual process and undoing. I see like pulling apart a crocheted blanket or scarf or something. She's saying that our addiction with those chemical highs has a lot to do with yeah, like we need a rewiring of our brains so that what feels good to us is this more fluid motion like this. How can we rewire our brains though? She's like, I'm concerned because this is a bigger problem. It is related to the food we eat, the air we breathe. We're taking so many things into our bodies that maybe weren't necessarily designed to come into our bodies. That sometimes the receptors or the signals from the brain to the other parts of the body get a little messy, is what she's saying. And then we're interacting with, all these the people in society that are also addicted to this. So it almost feels like we need a little isolation from all of that. Yeah, and she says it's really hard in today's world, like even with the pandemic and the lockdown, like people still are replicating these patterns. And it almost feels like you don't have a lot of hope for us as a human race. Little Miss Goose. Um, well, it's not that, she says. She sees it as a much more gradual process. So like on an individual, like maybe on a whole human global level, she feels like maybe there's not a lot of hope. But on an individual level, one thing we can do is to eat more healthy, eating less processed foods, eating more plants that are healthy and organic or minimally treated with pesticides. She says there is a real need for us to intake less that is poisonous to us, both on an energetic and a physical level. Being aware of the people that you're hanging around, like, do they do this thing or are they more regulated? She's even showing like there can be ways that we learn how to regulate our nervous system a little bit better. Maybe that's by learning about the nervous system, learning about the interactions that happen in your brain or in your body when these emotional highs and lows happen, and there could be ways to learn how to regulate that a little bit better in our own bodies. Yeah, she's saying like in nature and generally out in the wild, like there isn't this problem of animals not knowing how to regulate their nervous system. Like it's just automatic, it automatically happens. The problem with humans is we're using our brains so much on this level that is not our animal brain, or not the involuntary stuff that happens that keeps our body running. And we're overtaking some of these things with our voluntary brains, thinking we're smarter than the systems that have learned to regulate us. Okay. So we've got another question here. Does being in nature and say watching the geese help us rewire the brain? She says, yes, that definitely could help. And it could be even more powerful if, as you're out in nature and tuning in to the animals or the plants, that it's almost like being able to tune into the higher wisdom of the plant or the animal. Like there's universal or higher spiritual energy behind each one of these beings. And she's showing how we can even like have the intention of syncing our breath with nature as we're sitting out in nature, like syncing our breath with nature, becoming one with the universal external piece of nature, instead of seeing ourselves humans as so separate. Okay. Yeah, she's really encouraging us to do anything that we can to be out in nature, no matter where you're living, that there can be something about this higher wisdom, or this universal centrality in how nature works, that if we can attune our nervous systems more to that, she says, instead of the computers or all the technology or all these things, the better off that humans are going to be. I kept saying, wow, that's really powerful. That feels good. Yeah, it's very interesting. So I'm checking for any other questions for this Canadian geese family. So just wondering, our Canadian geese friends, is there anything else that you want to be sure to share with us? Or I guess we have another question popping up. What do you feel like the lessons of this pandemic are? So what I feel, instead of just the one female goose coming forward, I feel them kind of as a whole coming forward as now. And she's showing like this is really a lot of lessons about family and community, and staying close with the people that actually really matter in your life. Yeah, she's showing how, in everyday life, normal life pre-coronavirus, maybe we went out and we were interacting with all kinds of different people throughout the day, and, just kind of spreading our energy everywhere. And she's showing how this has really shown us how our own groups, our own communities, our own families, how important it is to put our energy into them rather than always just putting it out into the world wherever. So we've got another question coming up here for you guys too. Is that everything you want to say about what you feel like the lessons for the pandemic? Yeah, she's showing it really is a lot about like coming back to self and to those main things that really are important, and how as humans our energy can tend to get spread all over because we just do everything all the time. But yeah, coming back to those central people, themes, places, maybe your spiritual practice or your religion, coming back to those things that are really important, and those central themes is what she's showing. So I've got another question for you guys here. What can we do to help make their environment safe? She says, well, that's a pretty big question. She says, a lot of times for them, like they don't live here all year, is what she's saying, is that the wildlife has had to be a lot more picky about where they land, where they do things. Yeah, she's showing, again, I feel this sense of not a lot of hope around humans making their environment safe. She said, if anything, it's kind of been towards the other side. Yeah, she's showing like, there's been environmentalists like trying to hold up these values for more than 50 years. And, there's just, it's so slow. I just feel this wheel of the environmental movement. It just feels so slow is what she's showing. And she's like, I don't know, that it almost might have to be something bigger and more affecting the humans, is what she's showing, before they're going to totally take action. Wow. I wonder if you feel like there's any small steps that we as individuals might be able to take, or well, what she's showing me is this big boulder, like a big rock boulder of like corporate America or corporate in the world, multinational corporations, like just kind of steamrolling over other things, like these smaller maybe environmental movements and things like that. And she's showing there's a rigidity and like a solidity in that corporate system that makes it really difficult for any of the other information to get through. And like I feel this real tightness in my belly about it. And there's almost, she's saying that before any really big major changes that are going to last are going to happen, there has to be a bit of a dismantling of that bigger business, corporate kind of environment. She's like, I don't really have a lot of hope for humans with that financial, that economic system that's so intent on just growing bigger and bigger and bigger. As long as that's in place, it's going to be really hard to keep our environment safe, like as a whole. She is showing, like, as they do their migration patterns and stuff, how it's almost like she's showing me back over multiple generations how their flight patterns have changed a bit, and how they've had to be a bit more picky about where they land and do things. And yeah. All right, thank you so much. All right, I'm just checking for any final comments. And looks like we don't have any other questions, so we're kind of getting to the end of our time here. Thank you, Canadian Geese, so much for chatting with us today. And thanks for all of you who joined me live or who are watching afterwards. This series of animal communications has really just been a lot of fun for me to do and has brought a lot of joy to my life. So I'm planning on doing these sessions till the end of April at least. So if you're watching this before the end of April 2020 and think you might like to get in on the conversation, or you have an animal friend, be it a domestic pet or maybe a wild animal that's hanging out around your house, send me a message. Include a picture of your animal friend and their name and age if you know that, and we'll see if we can't work them into the queue before the end of April. So thanks again for joining me, and until next time, take care and be well.